Who's calling the roll? After, you're going to call the roll, okay.
Sir. Ms. Atkinson? Mr. Ferguson? Dr. Fitz?
Here.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mr. Lockwood?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Yes, here.
Chair Davenport?
Here. Unless there's changes, additions, or corrections to last month's minute, motion to accept, please.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lockwood, second by Mr. Howell.
Mr. Lockwood?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do in order to get your request approved or denied. Mr. Hodges?
Mr. Chairman, on these applications tonight, I'd ask that the joint zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, both be made a part of the record. The staff reports and any exhibits that are attached to the staff report should also be made a part of the record. And then, if you would please, you need to swear in Rachel Hurt, Jenny Willoughby, and Amy Scott, and recognize their qualifications as zoning administrators for the purpose of giving testimony tonight.
Do you ladies swear to tell the truth? Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
The first item on the agenda tonight is a request for a variance. And there's certain findings the board must make. They're set forth in KRS 100.243. And then also there's additional findings in section 3.8.4 of the zoning ordinance. But the board must find that the requested waiver will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the other requirements of the zoning ordinance. The last two items are both requests for conditional use permits, and in particular, short-term rentals. And as with the variances, there are certain requirements placed upon the board and the findings they must make. Those are set forth in section 3.9.5 of the zoning ordinance. The board must find that the requested conditional use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed, that the use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use will not constitute a nuisance, and that it adequately addresses the review criteria in section 3.9.4, and that it's otherwise in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And with short-term rentals, there are specific use standards that have to be addressed. But I mentioned the review criteria in section 3.9.4, and I cannot stress this enough. The language in that ordinance states that the applicant must adequately address the review criteria, one of which is compatibility. So the threshold question before the board is, have you adequately addressed the issue of compatibility? So I just want to remind the applicants of that before they make any sort of presentation tonight. You need a majority vote of those present in order to prevail. A pass vote has no force or effect. And if anyone's dissatisfied with the results, you have 30 days to file an appeal. That would go directly to Warren Circuit Court.
All right.
I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Our first request tonight, Larry B. and Kathleen A. Gildersleeve have filed an application requesting a waiver for an accessory structure to be located in front of the primary structure on the property located at 800 Hampton Drive. And this property is zoned RS-1A, single-family residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on January the 13th for the property that you highlighted, and it's highlighted in red on your screen. Their current zoning is RS-1A. Current land use is single-family residential. And again, the applicants are requesting a waiver to allow a detached garage to be located in front of the primary residence. We do have a couple of photos, site photos for your reference here, and then I'll leave you with the exhibit. Although up upside down, but that's okay.
It's all right.
There. So looking at the zoning ordinance reference, section 445E1, no accessory building or structure shall be extended beyond the front of the principal structure. The bottom of page 1 are the waiver findings for your reference. Looking on page 2, the applicants did supply a narrative to address the waiver findings, and the board should determine if the applicants have provided sufficient information to address those findings. We'll skip over to the bottom of the page underneath the staff review summary. While the zoning ordinance front yard building setback in the RS1A zone is 25 feet, there is a 65-foot platted front yard setback for this section of Richland subdivision, and it's shown on that waiver exhibit that has been supplied in your packet, so you can see where that lies on the property. And if we go back up to the conditions section, if this application is approved, staff suggests the following conditions. A revised plat must be submitted to staff for review, approval, and recordation in order to remove the platted setback prior to the issuance of a building permit. And the existing gravel parking area is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance requirements and shall be removed in conjunction with the construction of the proposed detached garage. Looking back at page 1 under the points to consider, while the zoning ordinance front yard building setback in the RS1A zone is 25 feet, there is a 65-foot platted front yard setback for this section of Ridgeland subdivision. As a corner lot, this greatly limited the placement of the home on the property at this location, therefore impacting the location of any accessory structure in the rear of the property. There's also a platted 10-foot utility easement located on the rear of the property line that prevents the proposed garage from being located behind the principal structure. And then there is a detached garage located on the adjacent property to the south. While this garage is not located in front of the home on the lot where it's located, it is located in front of the residence subject to this application at 800 Hampton Drive. The proposed detached garage will be located no closer to Hampton Drive than this existing detached garage, and the board should determine if the waiver request will alter the character of the area. But that's all we have for staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
I've got a question for you. Obviously, this lot's got some different unique circumstances to it. But we don't want to open a floodgate of garages in front of houses in Briarwood neighborhood. So, but assuming we approve this, because of the unique circumstances of this lot, would that be enough justification to deny anyone else in that neighborhood? Hoy, you might help me with this.
Sure.
To put
So
a garage in front of the
each
house.
of them should be should be looked at on an individual basis. This particular property does have some issues as far as the plat and where the original home had to be built with that increased setback. So it does limit what they can do with their property, and so that should be taken into consideration, I think, for that it's a unique corner lot with 65, as you can see on the exhibit, where the usual 25-foot setback would be, and then this platted, it's very restrictive, and with the easements in the rear, so.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Any
okay.
other questions of the staff from the board? The board have any questions of the staff? Are the applicants here? Can I ask you a question, if you don't mind? Would you come up and let us, we need to swear you in. I just want to ask you a question. You swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
I need to get your full name and address, too.
Larry Gildersleeve, 800 Hampton Drive,
Okay.
Bowling Green.
And just, at one time, there used to be some trees along that lot there, or cedar trees or bushes or something between your house and the house that faces Leeson Drive. There's a bunch of trees or vegetation there. And I think maybe the tornado may have taken those out, if I'm not mistaken, because for years, I never even really thought about there being a vacant lot behind those trees. It's just one of those things you couldn't see. And now that they're gone, is there any chance that y'all may be putting some trees back in there to kind of fill it in like it used to be?
Yes, sir, and it's my understanding from the Geyers who's out there, all of the trees that you described were gone before we purchased the house
Okay.
3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So they are very desirous of us getting the approval for the garage, and then putting the landscaping in to create the visual barrier between the two
I
houses.
think that'd be a great idea. I really do. Okay, any other questions of the applicant from the board members? Thank you very much.
What is the material that you're going to use for your garage?
Don't know. What I can tell you is that we will use the same contractor that did for the renovation of the house. So the home has been totally renovated since we purchased it, so it'll be professionally constructed.
Brick garage?
Pardon?
Is it going to be brick?
We're intending it to be brick,
I
yes.
think that's what,
Brick,
yeah.
that's what
I
I'm
think that's what he was asking.
Pardon?
That's what I'm asking, is it
Yeah.
going to be brick or wood or
Yeah,
Be brick,
siding or what
okay.
we got?
it's not going to be a metal
It's going to be
building,
brick.
no.
And I assume it's going to be, you're going to solve your gravel parking lot because the garage is probably going to sit right on top of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, adjacent to
Pretty-
it, yeah.
pretty
So
close
that
to it.
there's a little bit of driveway.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of the applicant from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank
sir.
you.
Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I make a motion, we approve the request for a waiver, docket number 2025-V-03, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. A waiver to allow an accessory garage to extend beyond the front of the principal structure, with the understanding that in the future, landscaping will be placed appropriately. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the granting these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a nuisance or hazard to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. I find that the waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants, and the strict application of the provision of the regulation would deprive the applicants of a reasonable use of the land and would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicants, and that this waiver is compatible with the neighborhood.
Proper motion.
All right. Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by
Second.
Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Very much, thank you.
Our next request tonight, Sarah Morgan Longhurst has filed an application requesting a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 711 Josephine Street. This property is zoned RM2, two-family residential. Yes, ma'am, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in January for the property at 711 Josephine Street. Here's the aerial view for your reference. And as you mentioned, the property is zoned RM2, which is two-family residential. The current use of the property is single-family. And this is the site plan that was supplied by the applicant. As you mentioned, the request before you this evening is for a conditional use permit for a short-term rental. And you'll see about midway down page 1 that a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental in property that is zoned RM2. At the bottom of page 1, we have the specific use standards for short-term rental uses for your reference. And then on page 2, the applicant supplied 4 conditions for your consideration. Number 1, there shall be a maximum of 3 rooms for rent. Number 2, there shall be a maximum of 3 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And 4, there will be no signage on the property. Below that, you'll see the reference to section 394 of the zoning ordinance, which outlines those findings required for granting a conditional use permit. And then if we look back on page 1, and then before I do that, I'll actually flip through the property photos here, just for your reference. I think many of you probably visited the site in person, but wanted to flip through those real quick. If we need to reference any of those, we can. But with that, just looking back on page 1 of the staff report, we have a couple of points for your consideration. First, the board should consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city if the existing single-family residence is converted to a short-term rental. And second, there are some public institutional, multifamily residential, commercial, and industrial uses in the vicinity of the property, though the prevalent land use on Josephine Street is single-family residential, and the board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including those single-family uses that are located adjacent to the property. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All righty. Any questions of the staff from the board? Question of the staff? Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Is
you.
the applicant here? Would you step up, please? We need to ask you some questions. Could we get your full name and address, please?
Sarah Morgan Longhurst, and it's 1614 Pontiac Way.
Do you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
All right, first question we got for you. Obviously, this is a single-family residential neighborhood. You're wanting to open up a business
Yes,
in the
sir.
middle of a residential neighborhood. How do you feel like that's compatible with that neighborhood?
I think that the property connects to quite a few other businesses, and in this one, it won't be very loud. It'll be very limited. I'm expecting to rent to nurses, families of college students, and things like that, and allow them the walkability to the surrounding businesses that they can utilize when visiting their family here in town. So I do not expect there to be much impact on the other neighbors in the neighborhood.
Are you not concerned if this is approved that many other houses there will turn into short-term rentals again also and completely change the character of the neighborhood? Because you're putting a business there. And once you put a business in, as you can tell on Lehman, it's kind of creeping a little bit on Josephine now. But luckily, it stopped.
Yes.
And we don't want Josephine to end up like Magnolia and Nutwood off of Broadway, where it just keeps on going further and further down the block. So you think the compatibility is?
I do for the area, yes.
Another question I've got, you said 3 cars. On your picture, your 3 cars are sitting in the driveway, very nice and neat. They're going to have to park off tight to each other without that third car blocking the sidewalk.
I don't intend for this house to be a house that 3 individual people rent. It's more of like a family rental scenario. So I was planning on putting ruling in my Airbnb for parking.
But if they invite guests over or friends over, you're going to have more than 3 cars. And I noticed when I was there, there was a car parked on the street, and the street's not really wide enough for cars to park blocking the sidewalk and the
I
street.
agree that.
And they're going to have to back out of the driveway on the street, which we don't think that's very safe. Does that not concern you?
In my experience with the home, it hasn't been an issue so far. There are people that do park on the street from time to time throughout the street, and I do see your point in that. I'm happy to make adjustments to make the driveway go further if necessary. I just have not finished the exterior renovation until I knew where I was going with the property. So the shed will be moved if it becomes an Airbnb, and that could extend more parking to clear some distance from the sidewalk for no more than 3 cars.
Is the property rented now?
I have a friend living in it, and she does not pay rent. It is my personal property.
Are there any other questions from the board of the applicant? Any questions of the applicant? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we deny the conditional use permit docket number 2025-C-04 for a short-term rental because the use would be detrimental to the welfare of the zone in which it's proposed, and that it will result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, and increase in population density, and that it does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And in addition, agreeing with this would have an impact on the permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city. It is a prime example of a modest-sized home for a first-time buyer.
Okay.
And Dr. Fisk, would you include the issue of compatibility in your motion?
I do not feel that this is compatible with the neighborhood.
That's a proper motion.
All right. Motion by Dr. Fitz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Your request has been denied, ma'am. You've got 30 days to take it to circuit court. Thank you. Our next request tonight, Donna M. Engel has filed an application requesting a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 562 East Main Avenue, Unit A2. This property is zoned RM4, multifamily residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting in early January for this property over on East Main Avenue, highlighted in red. The current zoning of the property is RM4. Current land use is multifamily residential. And then here are some photos just from the parking lot for reference on these units. This is from East Main Avenue, just a different perspective. And then here is the site plan for Unit A2. The applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental in the existing 8-unit condominium complex. A CUP was approved in 2023 for 6 short-term rentals at this location. The applicant for Unit A2 is seeking the CUP because a condition was placed in the 2023 application that nullifies the CUP if any of the properties are ever sold. And so looking down to the zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table, a CUP is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM4. The specific use standards are there on the bottom of page 1 for your reference. And then we'll look over to the 4 conditions supplied on page 2. First is a maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 2 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then number 4, there will be no signage on the property. And just a small note to the board, these are identical to the 2023 conditions, minus the conditions stating if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. The conditional use permit findings are there on the bottom of page 2 for your reference. And then looking back to page 1, there are no points to consider per staff pending public hearing and testimony here tonight. And that's all that I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions of the staff from the board?
Well, I have a question. Why was the condition that stated that if the property was ever sold or the applicant ceased the use, the CUP would be null and void? Why was that deleted?
I think that would be something probably the applicant could speak to best.
What's that?
The applicant could probably speak to that best.
Okay.
Any other questions of the staff? I assume you're the applicant. Would you step up, please? Yeah. If we could get your full name and address?
Donna M. Engel, 1413 Sycamore Avenue, Brunswick, Georgia.
You swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
All righty. Dr. Fitz had a question there for you.
So the way I understood it from the previous owner, he was made to have that stipulation in the zoning before. I'm doing it because I'm probably going to die in that unit. Into my life, is what I'm saying. The reason I bought it is when I'm no longer able to take care of a large house in Brunswick, which is on the coast and it's much warmer there, I'm going to move back here and live in that unit. It's perfect for an elderly person. It's 1 level.
Okay.
There's just 2 steps, and my only adult son, my only son, lives around the corner. So I'm trying to think of him. There's not a lot of places in downtown Bowling Green to retire to on 1 level. And this was the perfect place. And in the meantime, I am staying there this week, and I come back to Bowling Green to visit my friends and family 4 times a year, and that's where I will be staying when I do it. In the meantime, it's been an Airbnb, very successful one for the last, I'm not sure, do you know how long, Wayne?
Year.
In 2023, so at least
Okay, right, and he's the manager. The owner that I bought it from is still the manager of the Airbnb, as a super host.
So what you're doing, moving back there, is converting it back to what it was originally, condominium for people to live in.
Yes, exactly. been there since, what, 1979?
It's
I've
been
seen
there,
that place, you know, because
yeah.
I worked at the medical center till I retired 3 years ago. It's close to the hospital, restaurants.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Right, perfect place. And
Well, unfortunately, we're all going to die at some time. And the way this is stipulated, if, oh, God forbid, you passed away, then nobody would have to come back to get a conditional use permit
Right.
for the next owner. That's the issue. I mean, I can't imagine that if you, as the owner, you went from, using it as, as a property to rent out, and then turn it around, and now you're gonna live there. I can't imagine that, is that a mistake for her to do that? I mean, is that against the rules?
No, because the conditional use permit is only needed for short-term rental use. So you can live there by right long-term, just under the base zoning district without any additional conditional use permit. So the conditional use permit just gives special permission for the short-term rental use. But at any time, for any property you all grant a conditional use permit for, if somebody wants to change the use for something that's permitted by right in that zone, they can do that.
Or do they have to come back and get a change back to where it would be her own place to live?
No,
No.
because that's permitted
That's
by right.
that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Correct.
Okay.
I understand, I mean, I could live in this unit for 6 months if I wanted to, right? I
Sure.
could live into it as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Does it make any difference if, well, no, it wouldn't. But there's 8 units and 7 of them are short-term rentals. Only one gentleman lives
Right.
there permanently. So there is one full-time permanent resident
Right.
in those 2 units.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, he was here at the hearing for that before, so. He
Yeah,
was
we
here.
were all here.
Oh.
I mean, why would it be wrong for you to just go ahead and do what we did before? I
It
don't
would
know if you-
it
I
would
don't know if you
fine
realize
me.
the situation.
That's what we wanted to hear.
Okay.
Okay.
The former owner actually advised me not to have that as a stipulation.
Well, that's our prerogative, not
Yeah.
his.
Well, right. Well, I understood that I
Yeah.
didn't have to. He had to, I had a choice. I don't care.
He had to because we put that
Right.
condition on there.
Right, so put it back in there. I'm fine, I mean, of
Good,
course,
that's-
I'm not.
that's all
but
we wanted to
yes,
hear.
Put it in there.
You're
Yes,
done, you
great.
can sit down.
All right, you're ready.
All right, anyone against this request? Nobody else had any other questions, did they? Everybody good? No opposition, motion, please.
I make a motion we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2025-C-05 for a short-term rental with the conditions as presented in the staff report, plus the condition that if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the conditional use permit will be null and void. The testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it's proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and that it is compatible with the other buildings in that neighborhood.
It's proper
All
motion.
right. Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request's been approved, ma'am. If you sell it, the new owner has to come down and get the same thing that you did. If you sell it, the new owner has to come do what you did. But that's not your problem, that's his problem. All right, no problem, thank you very much. Any other old business tonight? Got any new business?
We have, there were 2 appeals that the court decided in our favor and upheld the orders that denied the conditional use permits. Both of these were for the short-term rentals. One was at 1657 Magnolia,
Good.
and it was filed by Reese Real Estate. And the other one was by Two Rabbits Farm on Bell Reeve Circle, and that's a little kind of side street out off Barren River Road. And in both these opinions, the court placed a great emphasis on the fact that the applicant failed to address the issue of compatibility, and that on both these cases, you specifically included compatibility. So I want
Great.
to commend you for that. It makes my job a lot easier on appeal if you do address the issue of compatibility. So anyway, we just have one more that's still pending before the court, but the court is consistently finding in our favor.
Is that the one on Nutwood that's left?
It's still on appeal.
That's the one, yeah. Well, I'm glad to see the one on Magnolia. That sure tells us that we're doing the right thing. That makes it a lot easier to turn the rest of Magnolia into, not turn it into short-term rentals, I guess what I'm trying to say. That's a
And
good
the one
deal.
out Barren River Road was next to a boat ramp.
Yeah,
so-
I remember
so
that,
recall.
yeah. It was kind of out there. Oh, good job. Good job. Anybody else, anything else in here tonight? Ladies, thank y'all, did a good job. Have a good, I wore my Valentine's for you all, you know, you're just pink. Libby said, why are you wearing that? I said, because all them girls are there tonight, I'm their Valentine. Thank y'all.